What you might not know is she was a Division I volleyball player at Georgetown University. And so she has gone that path that may be one that someone here will follow, and many of you may follow, that of going from being a student athlete and a leader on your team, a great teammate, somebody who works to make sure the success of the team happens, as well as being a leader when the time calls for it. So many of the leaders at this university played sports. I myself was a student athlete. I played field hockey and softball at MIT. Actually, being an assistant coach of field hockey was what led me on this path to wanting to become a coach and a teacher and a professor, and now the leader of this university. But I'm not alone. My whole executive team is filled with a woman who played Division I softball, a man who played Division I baseball, a Division III women's basketball player. It's filled with people who have sat in your seats, because everything that you learn on the field, on the court, on the ice, those things are skills and talents and lessons that you take with you throughout your career, and I encourage you to do so. We are excited here at UMass Lowell as a Division I program to have over 400 student athletes that compete, that win conference championships, that go on to NCAA competitions, but they're also athletes. They're people like Elisa, who is a fifth-year grad student on our field hockey team. Not only is she an All-American, academic All-American, she's also almost a 3.8, I think it was, GPA in biomedical engineering. The student athletes like Inshira, who's a sophomore from Chelmsford, and she is one of our throwers on our track and field team. Amazing competitor and a major in computer science. These are the paths that you have ahead of you, that opportunity to both be competitive in your sport and academically excellent. And as leaders in your schools, you also have the opportunity to set that model for being the kind of people that we all want to be, right? Hardworking, caring about each other, leading, being the one that can sort of take that team forward and be part of the team. That's what the makeup is of our students here at UMass Lowell, and I know that's a makeup of all of the student athletes here today. So it is my pleasure to welcome all of you today to this program, and I hope to see some of you here in the future as students, and I hope to see many of you successful, in fact, all of you successful in your careers. So thank you very much. Enjoy the program. Now my pleasure to hand over the podium to Middlesex DA, Marian Ryland.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here with us. As you just heard, I'm Marian Ryan, and I have the privilege of being the district attorney here in Middlesex County. And I want to thank your teachers, your athletic directors for getting you here this morning, allowing you to be here. I know there's a lot going on at school. I especially want to thank UMass Lowell. Chancellor Julie Chen has just been incredible in putting this together and allowing us to use this amazing facility. I say all the time, I went to a college that I first visited on a school field trip when I was in elementary school. Because I went there, I saw it, and I thought about, could I someday be in that place? So I hope today, being here, seeing the students, seeing the amazing facilities here, UMass is truly a treasure, and Lowell has really helped them to grow in ways that speak to the history of Lowell, and not just looking to the past, but the innovation and the kind of STEM work and all of the majors that have been developed here make this just an incredible treasure. So look around today. Don't just listen to the panels in here. meet people outside. We're going to have a lot of the students come up to talk to you during breaks. Just take advantage of all of that and put all of this into that big memory bank that you'll have to make decisions. I want to thank, of course, all of our panelists who are here with us today and some special guests. We have Chief Rossi here from Ashland. We have the Medford Mayor, Brianna Longo-Curran, who's joined us. We'll have some other folks coming in. And they are really all here because we recognize how important this is. And you might have a question about why are we doing this and what are we doing this for? You know, I have an amazing job, and the primary part of my job is protecting the public safety, protecting the safety of the 1.8 million people who live, who work, and who come to school in Middlesex County. We're in Middlesex County right now. I know most of you live in Middlesex County. And part of doing that job is thinking about the 250,000 students. Every single morning, 250,000 kids between kindergarten and 12th grade go to school in Middlesex County. It's thinking about how are you safe at school? It's thinking about how are you safe when you're in the field, in the rink, having a game. And our first responders, many of whom will be coming in today to join us, do they have plans in place to protect your safety if that's needed? And that's an important piece of our work. But probably one of the parts of my job that I love the most is that I get to have a platform to bring people together to talk about important issues. The things that I think are important, the things that the people who give me their vote think are important, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes. But this is one of those topics. I am sure that every one of you has been in a situation, in school, at a game, in a locker room, where you've seen somebody say something they shouldn't say, hurt somebody with words. Maybe that situation has deteriorated into a physical struggle. Maybe you've been in an athletic situation where even adults who should know better have gotten involved in using either words or physical force. And that does a lot of things that we end up investigating and sometimes charging people with crimes for. But especially when those words or those actions are motivated by bias or hatred, it does something that should never happen. It makes people wonder if they belong. Do they, who they are, their authentic self, do they belong in the place that they have a right to be? And one of my goals as district attorney is to reduce that number of times that anybody ever thinks that. People have a right to be who they are in every respect, and to have people respect them and treat them with dignity, acknowledging that. Every one of you in this room is different, and the tapestry of this room is so much better and so much richer because you are all different. And we need to always be thinking about that. So I have really two asks of you. The first, that Chancellor Chen made a reference to, is all of you, in order to be where you are, have learned about leadership, you have learned about discipline, and you have learned about teamwork. You wouldn't be playing a sport at your school if you didn't know all of those things. They are the things that make you attractive as employees. I love to hire people who have been athletes because we have a big office. I know that athletes know, as I always say, they know how to play with others. They know how to share space. They know how to get things done together. They are disciplined. You cannot be a student athlete and not be disciplined, because you've got to balance school, sports, maybe a job, your regular life, all of those things, and make time for them. And you are a leader because you are showing other people how to do things. And that's the part I want you to think about for a minute. I've spent the last 6 or 7 years doing a lot of work in Massachusetts on legislation to help make life better for young people, making the criminal justice system more fair and better, especially for younger people. And very interestingly, and I've been doing this for a long time, over the last 7 or 8 years, I have increasingly been joined at the State House by members of the New England Patriots, members of the Boston Celtics. They are doing exactly what I'm doing today. They are using who they are as an athlete as a platform, because people are listening to what they say because they are leaders. They are people in the community who are recognized. Devin McCourty has done an incredible amount of work across Massachusetts in helping the legislature and everyone else to think about raising the age for juvenile justice. He's used the fact that people watch him on television, know who he is, to get them to listen. We are 1 month out from a presidential election, an incredibly important presidential election. 2 people running for president, 2 people running for vice president. In what is really unprecedented, in the last week, all 4 of those people running in 50 states with 30 days left have gone to speak on sports radio, sports blogs, sports programs, because the athletes who run those are using their platform. They are taking who they are, the spot they've earned, and using it to promote whatever their views are. And that's really the second thing that I'm asking you. I want you to build those skills. Be ready to take on the challenges in life. Be ready to do the things that you'll hear our speakers and our panelists talk about today. And we were talking a little bit a few minutes ago, and when you're in these spots, you forget that people are sitting in the room thinking, I wonder how you get to be that person. I wonder how you get to that job. And everybody here is so far ahead because you already have those qualities. But the second and more difficult thing that I'm asking of you today is think about in your school. Probably no one has the platform in your school that you do as athletes. There are lots of kids who do lots of things, but athletes, in part because of their skill, their public performances, their numbers, they are known in school. I bet if I asked the younger kids in your school, they all know who you are. They know you're an athlete. Use that platform. Be an ally to other people. Create that safe space. Be a leader. You all know that being a leader, being the captain of a team, isn't just about winning games. It is about knowing the players, knowing each one of their skill sets, and playing them to the best advantage so that they get to be their best self and the team does best. That's what we're asking of you, that you help us to make this a safer, kinder, more productive place for all of our students. So it really is a win-win. Think about the skills you're developing for yourself. Take those skills. Think about, I am important in my school. People look up to me. Because of who I am, they listen to me and send the right message. Send the right message in person. Send the right message on social media. Send the right message when you are in a situation where somebody's been hurt, where a situation is going sideways. Be the person who speaks up and uses that platform. You've been given, and you have worked hard to earn, a privilege. That's a privilege we're asking you to use for everyone's benefit. So I hope that today you will leave here not just with lots of information about UMass and about the idea of college and what you might be looking for, but really with true inspiration from so many of the people who are so busy and have so many demands on their life, but have taken the time to be here with you, to help you think about that. I always think one of the most important things about coming to a conference like this is you have 3 hours or so when you don't have to do anything else but think about these things. You're out of school. You just have to think about it. And no one personifies that better than our next guest, who I'm really honored to have here with us today. And you've heard a little bit about her already. That's Congresswoman Lori Trahan. Congresswoman Trahan represents the 3rd Congressional District, which is made up of 35 cities and towns, including, as you heard, Lowell. And those of you who are here from Westford, from Tingsboro, from Dunstable, from Groton, she represents all of you as well. And when you think about how do people get to where they are, Lori is the granddaughter of immigrants. She grew up in a very working class family here in Lowell. Father was working lots of long, hard hours as a union iron worker. Her mother was juggling a couple of part-time jobs as she took care of Lori and her 3 sisters. And I've seen her mother helping Lori with her girls. So balancing all of that, Lori's a proud graduate of the Lowell Public Schools. And during the time she was at Lowell High School, as Chancellor Chen mentioned, she became a standout volleyball player. And she used her academic ability as well as that talent as an athlete to earn a scholarship, a volleyball scholarship to Georgetown in Washington, becoming, like I know some of you will be, the very first person in her family to graduate from college. And while she was in Washington going to Georgetown, she also got a taste for public service. And after graduating, she joined Congressman Marty Meehan's staff, eventually becoming the chief of staff. And she loved working for the people that she had come from, the people in Lowell, her hometown. And she saw firsthand what she could accomplish, but in a somewhat difficult piece, saw that partisanship, people just deciding, I'm over here on this side of an issue, you're over here, we can't get together, and wealthy self-interest really were not looking out for working class families like the one that she grew up in. She spent about 10 years doing that work in public service, and then she took on a new challenge in the private sector. She became the only female executive at a tech company, certainly at a time when being the only woman in that world was pretty common. And her passion for bringing women into leadership positions led her to co-found and operate a women-owned consulting firm. She advised various companies on business strategies and how to create the ideal conditions for all of their employees, but especially the women who were coming to work for them. But still wanting to expand on what she'd learned in public service, and this is where it comes to being about a platform. In 2018, Lori decided, never having done this before, to run for elected office because she still wanted to fight that fight she'd been fighting for working class people up here where she lived and try to change the way they often felt they didn't belong because of how they were frozen out by money or people's partisanship. She was elected to the position she now holds in Congress. She was sworn in with a historically diverse class of new members. she immediately got to work. She became a member of the powerful House Committee on Energy and Commerce, and that's made her able to use that platform to speak for people up here in the 3rd District, to expand access for them to affordable quality health care, to end the addiction crisis, to rebuild infrastructure, roads and bridges and all of the things we need, to tackle climate change, to help protect kids online from so many social media platforms. She serves in the House Democratic Leadership. She's the co-chair of the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. She's the senior whip, and she's a member of the Democratic Steering and Policy Committee. In the short time that she's been in Congress, since 2018, she's had to respond to a lot of crises that I'm sure she never expected up here in the Merrimack Valley. I think she'd been in Congress about 10 minutes when we had a gas explosion up here. She was able to get, as a result of that, passage of the Lionel Rondell Pipeline Safety Act. That had no sooner passed than we were dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and how to respond. She co-founded Congress's Pandemic Preparedness Caucus. Then Roe versus Wade was overturned, and she immediately got to work in behalf of women and healthcare providers who suddenly were having decisions made by somebody besides the woman and her doctor. And with every issue, Laurie has really been a great example of using that platform. She is her authentic self. Her platform is about here, where she grew up, the values that she knows are important, where she and her husband are now raising 2 of their girls, one of whom decided she didn't need to listen to her mother here today and come with Westford Academy. And she's gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding for local projects, for small businesses, for all kinds of organizations here. She is, as you can imagine, incredibly busy, has about 4 places to be this morning, so I am really honored. Laurie has been an incredible friend that she is here with us this morning. Thank you.
We're going to have to tell Grace that that's why I come to work, all that nice stuff being said about her mom. Just kidding. It is so great to be here with all of you. I don't really get to do this very often. I do get to work with incredible leaders like Chancellor Chen and Middlesex DA Marion Ryan, and I consider myself lucky to be able to do that. This is such a forward-looking, innovative forum that people don't often think of. The track that you are on, the sports that you're playing, the lessons that you're learning as a result of the hard work that you're doing, and how that can turn you into ambassadors, really. Ambassadors in your school, in your community. Certainly think about what you can do long term. I don't typically get the opportunity to come and talk to folks about what sports did for me. I'm normally talking about climate change and how to reduce the cost of living and so many things that are happening in Washington. So if I don't look that comfortable talking about myself for the 10 minutes that I was given, it's because I don't do it a ton. And maybe even sometimes I take it for granted. All the lessons and the rigor that goes into playing competitive sports and what that does for you it's really just a gift. I'm going to share it with you all today. It's also an honor to be here with so many other athletes who have played at the most elite levels in their respective sports. I know you're really going to enjoy hearing from so many of them today, even though there is a concentration in Boston College athletes, who was my #1 rival in the Big East when I was at Georgetown. So for those of you that don't know me, and there's a big chunk of you over here that do know me simply as Mrs. Trahan or Lori, I grew up right down the road from UMass Lowell. This campus has completely transformed in my lifetime. You should all take a look at the at UMass Lowell's campus, Chancellor Chen has put this place on just an incredible trajectory. And the students who are coming out of here are world class. But most of my colleagues that I work with down in the nation's capital, they're lawyers or they're lifelong politicians. I chose a very different path. Like DA Ryan said, my dad was a union iron worker. My mom, she was a hustler. She worked a ton of jobs just while helping my family make ends meet. Went to public schools, Lowell High School, of course, and we were just one of those families that lived paycheck to paycheck. Organized sports was not what it is today. I played basketball my entire, elementary, middle school, and going into high school, to the places where I could literally take the bus or walk, right? Lowell Rec, the Highland Basketball League, if anybody here knows that one. But it wasn't like the AAU teams that some of you get to play on. And I played basketball and I loved basketball, but it was also the only sport I really could get myself to. It wasn't until I tried out for the volleyball team, as a freshman, walking into Lowell High a little bit earlier than everybody else arrived, that I had even touched or thought about playing volleyball, and I fell in love. I just couldn't play it enough. My father was just like going crazy because he was like, what do you mean you don't want to practice basketball? Go out there and, take more free throws. And I just wanted to devote all of my discretionary time to practicing volleyball. And at the time, there was one club in New England. Clubs are, AAU teams. There's probably like hundreds now in New England. I think volleyball is the largest AAU sport in the country. But back then, it wasn't. And there was one, and I got recruited to play on that after going to a volleyball camp. And I remember that was the first time that I looked at my parents because there was a cost associated with my going to Quincy. It was Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, 6 to 9 p.m. And that was a distance for us to travel. I was living in Lowell. But it was also, a couple $1,000s because they traveled. They traveled not just regionally, but, to national championships and things like that. And I thought it was a foregone conclusion, right? I'm sitting there looking at my parents like, my eyes wide open. I'm like, this is incredible. I just got asked to play on this team or to try out for this team. It was the first time I sort of saw the stress in my dad's face. And he borrowed against his retirement in order for me to play on that team, which is something that, gosh, you don't really realize when you're a teenager and you're just thinking about yourself. But I look back on that now and what a gamble, risking sort of our whole family, in terms of, and his, the money that he would have gotten after retirement to give me this opportunity. It worked out. There was a happy ending in the story. I ended up earning a scholarship to go to Georgetown, and it was as a result of, traveling and playing and, getting to play in front of recruits. But it's not lost on me for a second that even without that gamble on the annuity to play that club, Georgetown was never in the cards for my family, right? I dreamed about going to that school, but it wasn't as though we could afford going to that school. And so I think I had an automatic appreciation for not just the level of commitment. So oftentimes people will say to athletes, what you do to get yourself to play at a level is, it's unmatched in some cases, the hours in the gym, all the extra workouts, the jumping, the weights, everything. But your family also makes a tremendous commitment. And as I get older, I realize what, my family, my sisters, they all did, for me as a result. Playing in college is a joy. It's a lot of sacrifice, there's no question. But it's also, there's nothing quite like suiting up and getting to play for your college and really having a bond with your college teammates. You kind of go through the fire together. And those are my lifelong friends, right? The woman that I got to play in high school with on all my little high school teams, every club team, college. I mean, I still stay in touch with all of those women. And so I do think that, when you think about some of the lessons that you're taking away from playing sports, obviously the discipline and the leadership and the teamwork, but it also is, it's how to support each other, as friends. And as I was listening to D.A. Ryan talk about your opportunity to give other people in your community, on your team, in your school, that feeling of belonging so that they can feel the same way that everyone else feels is really something I hope none of you take for granted or squander, because it really is something that you innately have that can be shared. A lot of you here this morning know that sports just isn't, it's not just a game for many of you. No matter how competitive you are, I think that you all have, you can all acknowledge that you're learning a whole lot more about yourself when you're putting yourself out there to play sports. Those are very important life lessons, whether you're triumphant or having to recover from a tough loss. There's no question that discipline in sports, and just like in life, there's no substitute for hard work and preparation. The self-motivation that you have to make yourself better, there's of course showing up to all those workouts and all those practices when you're doing that with your team, but it takes a very unique level of discipline to do that on your own, to make yourself want to get better for something bigger than you in most cases, right? It's like a team sport or winning. That really contributes to mental toughness and a resolve to sort of work toward your goal that is going to crop up, and you are going to get to rely on all of that in so many different aspects of your life. Of course, teamwork and, in the game of volleyball, are there any volleyball players here? Yeah? Oh, look at, oh, raise them high, you would be proud. Yeah, okay. Oh, look at that. I mean, if you're playing 3 out of 5 matches, there's really no time to get down. Having to recover quickly doesn't afford you lots of time to blame a teammate for shanking the ball, right? You just got to get it back, right? That's why so many times in volleyball you see all 6 players come to the middle and give themselves a pat on the back and then break. It's you can literally not, and I'm sure it's like this in all other sports too, but I'll speak from my experience. You don't have time to sweat the play that you just screwed up. You really have to get back in it and get your head straight right away. And that level of support that you give to each other on a court, bottle that up because that is the kind of support you want to give to your friends, to your siblings, to your community. The scenarios that D.A. Ryan was pointing out in terms of the person who's feeling alone or maybe getting bullied, having someone like you show up who knows how to bring someone's head back into the game or make them feel supported is really a superpower. And so I would just encourage you not to diminish that in yourself, because it's something that really is powerful. Of course, there's leadership. You all know, having played on multiple teams, sometimes the captain isn't the best player on the team. The captain sometimes could be the person who knows how to motivate the team, say the right thing, lead by example, right? Maybe doesn't get every goal, but is out there all the time practicing and showing and talking and making sure everybody is pulling their weight. I think leadership comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes and forms, And whatever your contribution is to a team, that's your leadership. That is how you sort of think of yourself and how you might lead groups or teams down the road. Also, respect for opposition. I mean, a lot of times in sports, you downplay the fact that you handshake before you play, you handshake after you play. I wish they did that in Congress, frankly. I wish we just shook each other's hands every once in a while, and we reminded each other that even though we may have differences in opinion, we don't have to be so, I don't know, what was that? Yeah, we don't have to just be in our teams and not talk and consider each other enemies. I think one of the most valuable gifts or lessons I took from playing sports is grit. And it's funny, there aren't many women athletes in the Congress. I'm the only female Division I athlete in the Congress, which I was just shocked by. And part of my message to you is run for office, because one, you'll be great campaigners. It's very competitive. All those skills you'll already have. But it's also, the whole not giving up and grit and everything that you need or that you just have in you as a result of playing sports. I know that I deploy in my new job. And sometimes I'll sit in our caucus or committee hearings, and there's one, our leader of our party, the Democrats, his name is Hakeem Jeffries, and he will look out sometimes and he'll say, a setback is nothing more than a setup for a comeback. And everyone sort of is like, ooh, they feel like they're in the huddle, getting coached, and that's just, those words don't even have to be told to us, right? We all know that a loss is just like an opportunity for us to go prove ourselves and play and notch another victory. We tend not to dwell for so long on those setbacks. They're an opportunity for us to be reflective. They're an opportunity for us to sort of think about our own play and for us to get better. And so I think that's something that you probably don't even know you have in you, but that is called grit, and that is very, very valuable. You all know, and I'm going to wrap up so I can hear from you, sports, I think, teaches us never to give up, to just be very persistent, write your goals down if you haven't started doing that. I didn't know I would ever get a scholarship to go play at Georgetown, but I knew in the 8th grade I wanted to go to a school like Georgetown. They had a great foreign service program, which is what I wanted to study, and they were situated in DC, which is where I thought I wanted to go to school. And as I was getting better at sports, I wrote that down, that my goal was to go to Georgetown. And sometimes that's all you need to do. You have to say it out loud, or you have to write it down, or you have to share it with someone who's going to help you get there, like a coach or a teacher, a counselor, a parent. And that is the first big step to achieving what you want to achieve. Say it out loud, write a goal, even if it feels like it's, I was a kid in Lowell who, played sports, and I did well in school, but I didn't think for a second I was going to go to Georgetown, and then it happened. And I think all of you, because you're goal-oriented, you're win-oriented, you know what it takes, the simple act of writing a goal down on a piece of paper gives you a march. It gives you sort of something to work toward, which you're already very, very good at. So, look, I could talk for days about sports and the impact that it had on me. But I think what's most important for all of you to know is exactly what D.A. Marion said. We have all sat in your shoes. And I didn't know I was going to go to Georgetown. I certainly didn't think I was going to be in the U.S. Congress. It wasn't in the cards. My lifelong dream was not running for office. In fact, it was many, many other things. But it is such an honor and a privilege to represent people of the district that I have and elevate the concerns that they have in Washington and fight for them every day. And I think that's a great example of how you should think about Your platform might be small today, although yours is much bigger because of social media and all the places that you can touch that we didn't really get to, but it might be, you know, confined today to your school or to community. But it could be much, much bigger. And you should think about how you sort of practice and develop that skill, because it's an important one, and you all have something very, very valuable to share. And with that, I thank you for your attention. I know that was the longest I've ever talked to a group of students. And I look forward to, and I hope if there's anything that you want to ask, that I've got time for questions. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. People, I'm sure, have questions, so raise your hand, come up to one of the microphones, and Congressman, raise your hand. I'll be happy to answer your question. Show some leadership. Come on up. Okay, come on up. Very brave. Just grab one. Come on up here so everybody can hear you. Okay, that's too hard.
What's your advice on getting through hardships in your office position?
You mean hardships in my current role?
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things that we've all had to go to a practice or a game when maybe we've had something wrong at home. I remember there was one coach who told me that when you show up here, we're together for 3 hours, and everybody was coming from something. But leave whatever that is at the door, because we're here and we're stuck here, and we're gonna show up for each other, and we're gonna have the best damn practice that we're ever going to have, and everything's gonna be waiting outside for you when you get out. But when we're here for each other, and it's good practical advice. You know, there are days when you know, there might be something going on with my family, there might be a friend that's sick, there might be something, you know, that is distracting and also hard to walk away from to go do your job. And I think that you have to focus on what's in front of you. You have to be present for the things and the people who are relying on you. In terms of, like, my job can be hard just because the cast of characters is you know, can be challenging. The issues are tough. I get really impatient, right? You know, like, I sort of like to execute much faster than maybe what Washington does. But I try to use whatever opportunity is given to me as a way to